Let's begin with the socio-political order that the Tang created. And to do that, I want to begin with the imperial family itself. It was one of the great clans of the Northwest, but the Northwestern clans had a quality that set them apart from the other great clans. They had intermarried with the tribal peoples of the Northwest. The Li family, the imperial family of Tang, was in fact of so-called mixed blood. They had intermarried with the Turks. In fact, the son of the founder of the dynasty at various points lived in the palace grounds in a yurt trying to speak Turkish. This was true of the Sui dynasty as well. The wife of the Sui founder had the surname of Dugu, which was a Turkish surname. Foreign clans provided generals for the military. There was not a sense of anti-foreignism at this point. For the Tang, what was foreign just meant what was still outside the imperium. And we find in the Tang period many people from foreign countries serving as part of the Tang administration. One of the things we see in the Tang, and this is already suggested by the fact that Empress Wu could usurp the dynasty and get away with it for a number of years, was the role of imperial women, or the role of women in the North and the Northwest, was rather different from that in the South. In the South, the expectation had been that they would be secluded, would stay at home. In the North, women were out in public. They rode horses. They played polo. And in fact, the wife of the founder of the Sui dynasty had said that she should be regarded as one of the two sages on the throne, that she and her husband were ruling together, and that he might not have any children by any other person besides her. Empress Wu, the empress of the Tang Emperor Gaozong, her usurpation brings with it a proclamation of a new dynastic name even, the Zhou dynasty, going back to the ancient Zhou, although it ends with her death. One of the policies of the Tang Empire, and one of the reasons for its success, was its ability to bring the great clans into government. The great clans from the Northwest, where the dynasty was founded, the Northeast, the Southeast, and from Sichuan. The problem, though, that they faced was how to get these clans to shift their loyalty to the dynasty, rather than seeing the dynasty and the government merely as a means to advance themselves. How were they to do this? Well, they settle on, of course, what's the obvious solution. They make sure that these families are able to stay in government and put their descendants in government as well. They have another problem. How do they cut the tie that links these great clans from their home bases, where they dominate the locality, sometimes whole counties dominated by a single clan? The solution is an administrative reform. They start to set a series of rules. They reorganize some of the prefectures and counties. They set in place a rule of avoidance. This was already done in the Sui dynasty. The rule of avoidance says, and it still operates in China today, that you may not serve as an official in a place where you have relatives. The idea was to break the great clans from local government, to give local government independence. The government takes control over appointment and rank. That is, great clans can make their children or their male children eligible for offices, for roles in government, but they can't decide what roles they'll get. They can't pass on office to them. And finally, they make education one possible path into office. And education, at least potentially, is something that all could compete for. They have another problem, which is that the great clans had prestige that was so high that they rivaled the prestige of the ruling house. The solution to this problem was to create national lists, ranked lists of all the great clans in the empire, and then to adjust the ranking to reflect what people had done for the dynasty. That is, the higher you served, the higher your ranking would be, to try to make the prestige of a clan dependent on its service to the dynasty. And they put in another rule as well, although it's not clear that it was actually put into thorough effect. That was to forbid the top-ranked clans from marrying each other, all in an effort to try to establish the supremacy of the imperial house over the great clans that dominated the government. The emperor in Tang was in some sense still what's called a primus inter pares, the first among equals. But the great clans around him certainly were rivals in some sense, or equals to the imperial Li clan.